What's up, guys, and welcome back to Critical Cinema. The camera's over here, not over there. Anyways, today we're going to be taking a look at a very special movie, but before we can start, we need to get ready. So, to do so, make sure you have dog tags. Gonna need them. War helmet, probably gonna need that too, just saying. Backpack, definitely gonna need the stuff. I mean, seriously. The jacket comes before the backpack, because, don't have a full-fledged suit, but don't worry. As a military soldier, anything goes. You have to use what you got. So this, made for a 6-year-old, we're trying. We're gonna see if this works. We're gonna do our best, Try. Anyways, we're gonna keep trying. Our move. We got the backpack now. And finally, can't do anything without a cap gun. It's well, actually, for what we're watching, forget the gun. So yeah, military ready. Still can't get this on. I've just got half the sleeve, But I'm gonna keep this thing full of protection. Anyways, let's get started, because today, we're watching Hacksaw Ridge. And as usual, I'm joined by my co-host, Justin Smith. Justin, welcome back to Critical Cinema. You ready to get cracking?
Yeah, ready to get cracking some knuckles and some skulls. Let's go.
It's gonna be a crazy movie. Very unique war movie, for sure. I've watched it. Justin, have you seen this movie?
No, I've heard a lot about this movie, and by a lot I mean I've heard it's popular, it's good, and it's about World War II. And that's about it.
Mel Gibson, I think, made this movie, so that's a good plus. His movies.
Oh yeah, I also heard that's something to do with religion.
Yeah, it's religion. Christianity is going to play a key role in this. So, without further ado, let's get into this movie. Where's the pause button? I can't see the pause button. Camera is in the way of the pause button. Guys, we're going straight into the opening shot. It's gonna be good. Lionsgate? My eyes! Oh! So, the first segment of the movie starts off with a flashback, or actually a flash forward to what's going to happen, but then from there it goes to the childhood of Desmond Dawson over in Virginia, where he grew up with his brother. And it shows them having a great time, but it does show the inner turmoil of their family. From an abusive father who was the only one left from his squad during the war, who hates himself for it and therefore takes it out on his family, not knowing else to turn to, he turns to alcohol. And therefore, he doesn't really raise his boys well, leading them to a lot of fights, which ensues between Dawson and his brother, which ends up with Dawson hitting his brother in a defensive act, spur of the moment, with a brick on the head, nearly killing him, and bringing to the realization to Dawson how close his brother came to dying, how close he came to almost killing him.
I could have killed him.
Yes, you could have. Murder, it's the worst sin of all.
And it shows this imagery of him looking up to this mural in their house with a picture of Cain and Abel, and him talking to his mother about how he could have done just like that, and his mother telling him that murder is the greatest sin of all, and that God hates it very much. And as it is, it's a very terrible thing. And that key scene will come into play as we progress in seeing how Dawson matures and changes. And don't worry, his brother does survive, but it only gets crazier from here.
Okay, so the main character just took some guy whose leg was bleeding into the hospital, and he just started staring at a random woman, and for the next few minutes, there's some of the most awkward scenes of a guy hitting on a girl I've ever seen.
What do you need?
My belt.
The worst part about it is probably the writing made it super awkward, and Andrew Garfield's southern accent is so terrible it sounds so weird coming out of his mouth and so terrible. That just made the scene infinitely worse.
And I'd say the pauses in between, like their lines, and like them just staring at each other, it cuts back before it completely envelops you in a sense of awkwardness. You feel awkward,
It's like so far this movie really knows how to make you uncomfortable.
which is and bravo to them for this scene because like you feel in some scenes you're like, oh, that's awkward usually in a scene when someone hits on someone, or wow, that person knows how to do it well. But in this scene, not only do you say, ah, that's awkward. You're feeling the awkward. You're like, can you please end this? You get that feeling of, please end this. I want it to stop. It's weird.
It's like those intentionally like awkward scenes in Joker where it's just so cringy and awkward that you don't want to watch it, but it's like on purpose.
Well, let's keep going. Let's find out some more. So, we're looking at Andrew Garfield, and he's on this date, right? And he's taking the girl up to the mountain, and he's climbed this wall, and she goes, "What are you, a mountain goat? Are you okay, miss? He's Spider-Man." It's kind of obvious. I mean, yeah, Carl must hit him. Spider reflexes. See?
What are you, part mountain goat?
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. Just saying. Guys,
No,
I just noticed something. Justin was saying, are you going to make Spider-Man jokes this whole entire time? Yes, I am. Notice something. Andrew Garfield happens to fall for the redhead. I don't know MJ much. Just saying. Spider-Man. Mary Jane. Yeah. Spider-Man joke number trace. They're going to keep coming. So the next part of this movie is where Dawson goes through basic training. And obviously his ideals of not wielding a gun and not taking another man's life are immediately under fire once they're found out. And it shows his entire time of being beaten, abused, disrespected just for what he stood for. And from that, a camaraderie actually arrived from where the sergeant looked him in the eye and said,
Private Doss, can you identify the men that beat you?
No, Sarge.
Are you saying that you don't know who attacked you?
I never said I was attacked, Sarge.
it seemed like he was out of the way. He was straight path, straight there to the army. But things go downhill when the higher ups come in and tell him that he must shoot those guns. And what we'll find out next what happens to that. But let's stop, let's pause, and let's analyze this section of boot camp. So Justin, what are your thoughts on this?
honestly, it does seem like certain parts of it seem very similar to Full Metal Jacket, but that might just be because like they're both war movies. But Full Metal Jacket takes place during the Vietnam War and takes place in World War II. But there are definitely some similarities. It might be interesting to note that like things like the way the sergeant speaks is like a slightly more toned down version of the sergeant from Full Metal Jacket, and the beating of the one guy is also similar to what happened. But this is based on a true story though, so it probably has some merit to it.
Personally, from when I first watched this movie, I absolutely was in an uproar of just the jokes that the drill sergeant said. I couldn't really survive boot camp because let's just say I would be laughing too much. It wouldn't work that well. Not a good thing. But yeah.
Yeah, all the jokes with the naked guy were hilarious.
Everyone outside, now! Move it! I said move it!
All right, just get in my uniform, Sarge.
Should I ask him too, Corporal?
No memory of it, Sarge.
I believe any man who takes such pride in his natural naked state will surely enjoy the brisk of the outdoors. Now move your private parts!
He had to go through the mud too.
I bet you're enjoying this, you naked degenerate!
Let's keep going. Let's find out some more. So the next section of the movie, we see Desmond. And Desmond is now being court-martialed, or at least will be if he pleads not guilty for the actions of what he did. Now, at the same time, we're following the story of his father, who is having to go through this controversial process in his mind of whether he should save his son. But to do so, he has to put on the uniform, which still haunts him as the reminder of everything he lost in the First World War. Thankfully, he does, and he brings his old former contacts who are still in the military to Desmond's aid, and bringing forth, spoiler, Desmond's freedom to continue his service as a conscientious an objector. You know what I mean? I don't know why I can't say it. I just can't right now. But conscientious. Yes, you know what I mean. But yeah, a CO. And you know what? He's ready to go to war. So we'll see how that works out. So fast forward, we're on the battlefield. They have just reached Hacksaw Ridge and have climbed up. And the war is really about to go down. Naval bombardment has already happened, and the Japs are about to
froggy
with the Americans. But we noticed some things. So Justin, you want to tell him?
Why is the drill sergeant in the battle with the soldiers?
Send in a weapons team to flank them!
It doesn't make much sense.
That's not what a drill sergeant does. Drill sergeants train the recruits at boot camp. They don't go into the war with them.
Yeah, it is quite confusing as to why they did that. Maybe it is a true story, so maybe in this case the drill sergeant went with them, and it's just very unique. But overall, that doesn't make any sense. So
Yeah, just because it's a true story doesn't mean that the director can just mess up some crucial, gigantic details.
yeah, so if you guys want to
I don't
research
know.
it and tell us if you find out about it, why that happened, leave us a comment below, and we'll definitely get back to you on that.
Like, that happens a lot more than you think in movies that based on true stories where they just fabricate like gigantic details or plot points that
Yeah,
never actually happened.
trying to spice it up because for some reason true stories aren't as true as they are. Supposedly they aren't cool enough for the movie. They're gonna be adapted, but honestly, that's not true. They don't need to be.
Yeah, they can just write the movie better. Write and direct the movie better. That's all they need to do. They don't need to like change things about the story or anything.
Yeah, you already have the story there. Don't change it. Just present it as it was. So
Be a better writer or director.
yeah, if you can't work with what you've got and you have to add stuff to it, something's wrong there. Let's get back to finding out what's next on this adventure as the war is about to go down. War finished. Hacksaw Ridge taken. Desmond Doss is accredited with getting over 70 people to safety. And that one night, which is insane. And as he prayed to God, every single time he brought one back was, give me one more. And the heroics behind that man show us today what it truly means to love one's country, one's brothers, and one's God. And his heroic sacrifice and risk that he took should never go unnoticed. So let's get into the review of how they portrayed his life story. Cinematically, with the cinematography of this film, what are you feeling from the way Mel Gibson showed this true story?
Well, cinematography, it was good. It wasn't amazing, but it wasn't like mediocre or bad or anything. It was like consistently good throughout. There were some parts where the lighting was like a bit weird, like even for the context of the scene, and they could have like framed certain things better or like done certain things better, but overall it was still pretty good.
I would have to agree. So out of 5 stars, what do we think we're rating this?
Uh, like probably 3.5.
3.5. Okay, 3.5 for cinematography. Next up, character development. What are we feeling with Desmond Doss, his wife, Miss Doss, now, or was Miss Doss, and, or the other characters around them as well?
Honestly, Desmond Doss' character development was actually pretty good. The wife's character development wasn't like as in depth as I would have liked it to be, and the rest of the family got pretty decent character development, and some of his compadres got some good character development too. But Desmond Doss was like the main character, so he got the most character development, and his character development was like really well executed. Like
Mm-hmm.
even if you don't agree with him, like you still understand why he did what he did and why he felt like what he felt like.
Puts you in his shoes.
Yeah.
Sure. So 5 being perfectly done character development, and 0 stars being there was none. What do you think? Where are we thinking he's lying in this?
Maybe like 4 stars.
I would have to agree with that for sure. So 4 stars for character development. Next up, we have set, lighting, and costumes. And you've touched on lighting as well, but we can go further into that. What are our thoughts on those 3?
The sets in first half, well, actually, the sets throughout are like all historically pretty accurate, and
Mm-hmm.
the throughout the entire thing, and the costumes are the sets and the costumes are both great, like consistently throughout the entire film. They're like great, but the lighting, it's good, but there are certain parts where it's just like, why?
Mm-hmm.
Why would you do that? There's certain parts that are actually really cool, like the nightmare sequence with the green flash.
Yeah, for sure. I loved that. That was a really cool shot. So
So
rating wise, what are you feeling here?
I'll give it like 4 stars.
Sounds like a good place to place it. The lighting definitely bringing that down, um, for sure. And finally, film score. Or no, wait, visual effects and sound effects. And I think the sound effects personally were good. Visual effects, this is where I gotta be. Like pyrotechnics looked pretty good. Compositing, some of them were composited, some of them were real. The composited ones I could tell with the train die. For the standard viewer, I don't know if you could tell, but when it came to ships, set extensions, and green screen, no, no, it was
Yeah, like certain moments, like the when the Navy ships were firing, or when Dawes was being lowered down, and like in the sequence in the tunnel where they blew up the tunnel, and you see like the CGI fire envelop them.
yeah, you could see the bloom effects being put on in it, which just wasn't fully done. I'm guessing the budget went mainly to physically the sets and the squibs that were used for the things. I think the physically done, the pyrotechnics, the physical effects, the practical effects, perfectly executed, except for the occasional squirting squib that's totally unrealistic. But the CGI, the green screen set extensions, definitely could use some work.
Yeah, they definitely went like really overboard, like on a lot of them. Like, because when they do the practical effects, they look fantastic most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a few select times where they do CGI and it looks great. But for the most part, most of the effects throughout the entire movie is just CGI, and it doesn't look very good.
And a big rule that you have to
It's
follow if you're
noticeably
going to do that is if you're going to show practical effects, you have to have the CGI that can match that level. If you don't, it destroys the realism. So you got to choose A to go full practical, B full CG, or C you need to have the ability to make them both equally realistic. So, and they definitely did not pull off the realistic CG. But bravo for the pyrotechnics, Mel. Mr. Gibson, you did a
Yeah,
well job.
yeah, and bravo for like the practical body effects for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Looked extremely gruesome.
Very realistic, which he's known for. So on the visual effects and sound effects level, where do we think we lie on this?
Maybe like 3 stars.
3 stars. Okay, sounds good. And finally, film score. Not as big as a player in this movie, but still there, still present. What do you feel on this?
Yeah, definitely did not have a major part in the movie. Like, it was pretty in the background for the most part. For certain parts, it was just uh, made really loud to try and make the moment feel like special when it really wasn't that special. So, like, it wasn't like a standout feature of the movie or anything.
Yeah,
It
I'd
wasn't
say like it was.
terrible.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It wasn't like Star Wars where the music is everything, or Indiana Jones or things like that. It used it, but it wasn't the main thing about it. The main thing was the people.
Yeah, I'd probably give the film score maybe like 2.5 stars.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I was gonna give it a 2. So that sounds good. But that is all of it rated down. So movie as a whole, taking everything into consideration, where do we think this falls? Do we think it was a piece of garbage? Do we think it was a masterpiece or somewhere in between there? Where are we feeling? How would you rate this movie?
Well, what would you put for your rating?
Personally, this is in my top 5 movies. And for me, as a person, I don't usually cry during movies. Only 3 movies have gotten me to cry. This was one of them. And from this, I'm even though it did, that doesn't constitute a masterpiece. I don't think it pulls it off. Masterpiece would be everything is perfect, or even if it has a flaw, you'd love the flaws in it too. Um, but it's definitely not near garbage whatsoever. So I'd say I'd have to give it a 4, personally. That's just me.
Honestly, I would give it personally for me, for my experience, I would give it like a 3 stars because the second half of the movie is like really brutal for the most part, and it's like very well done. But the first half is just like a little bit too cheesy for its own good, and just doesn't know what to do with itself for a lot of it. It feels like clunky and awkward and
Mm,
just not just like takes dramatic moments and just makes them into cheese fests. It's just like a little bit ridiculous.
yeah,
And even
I
even
feel
in the
that.
second half, there's still some like obviously the visual effects like go up and down, and like there's some really weird choices and moments. But even then, the second half is still like good enough to make this movie worth watching,
Yeah,
and definitely like a worthy movie for your time.
for
But
sure.
I just feel like the first half really brought the movie down a lot.
That makes sense. Yeah.
It's kind of like what happened, like the opposite of what happened with like Captain America: The First Avenger, where the first half of the movie was amazing, and it was just Cap when he was like before he was in service, and then the second half was just mediocre, and that's when he was in service.
Hmm.
It's like the opposite effect actually.
Yeah, it's weird duality there. Very strange. But yeah, good points. Um, so with that, that ends our review of Hacksaw Ridge. We hope you guys enjoyed. Now we got a couple of things for you guys to do. First off, something we're going to start with this episode is we want to hear your reviews of these episodes, your reviews of these movies. So below in the comments, tell us what you thought you would rate this movie. Go check it out if you haven't already. Tell us what you think. Is it a masterpiece to you? Is it a complete piece of garbage? Explain. Tell us. We totally want to see what you guys have to think on that. In addition, keep an eye out for the next episode, episode 8, coming up. We got a whole bunch more planned for you guys. Um, and also, if you want to to see any specific movies, list them below, and we may just add them to future episodes. So we hope you guys enjoyed, and we will see you on next episode.